You mentioned that the US thinks this is fully unfounded. Did you just mean like coming to the conclusion of these arrest warrants being sought, or did you mean the whole process?
So I'm not going to. So I mean the entire process. I'm not going to go do a factual point by point of each of the charges, but the process itself, the equation of Israel with Hamas, a brutal terrorist group with a democracy that, for all its faults, does, like any democracy, does have its own existing accountability mechanisms that are underway. We find that process and the outcome that has generated deeply flawed.
But the ICC coming to this conclusion, presumably they're looking at pretty similar material to what the US looks at when you're doing your own process and assessment of the actions that that Israel has taken. So if they are looking at open source evidence and that kind of thing, is the US can you say whether you're confident in the process that the ICC uses to get to its conclusion, or
so I don't have any confidence in the process that they use to get to conclusion in this case. In fact, quite the opposite. And I don't know where they got their information. This goes to the point I made in my opening statement about calling off a visit to Israel, where they could have interacted with the Israeli government. They, of course, are not on the ground in Gaza to collect information firsthand. Whether they've been able to collect evidence otherwise, I don't know. I presume we would see as the case goes forward.
What do you mean you don't know where they got their information from? A lot of it's open source.
That's so my point is.
Do they have to go to Israel to figure out what public comments from Israeli officials?
It is not just so. Whenever you're conducting a case, it's not just a question of public comments. I would think, if you were going to bring a case of this nature, you might want to go to the Israeli government and say, okay, we have concerns. Hold on, let me just. We have concerns. We have concerns about.
You're sure that they didn't?
We have concerns about the following things. Why don't you brief us on your ongoing investigations?
And you know that they didn't.
I know they have not conducted a full, complete process to that regard. There was a trip that was scheduled to go through some of these questions. That trip has been in. Whether they've conducted some limited review, I will let the Israeli government speak to that. I know that they have not. That the Israeli government was prepared to cooperate in much more extensive detail, and that process was ended by the action of the prosecutor.
All right, let's turn it around. What about Hamas?
I don't think Hamas was going to cooperate with an investigation. No, if that's the question.
So they don't need to go to Gaza and talk to Sinwar and who's the other guy? I can't remember. Yeah, and they don't need to go to Doha, but they do need to go to Israel.
So we don't even get to the question because there's a jurisdictional issue. Right? We don't believe they have jurisdiction over the leaders of Hamas who are in Gaza.
But now you're.
We have more than one concern about this case.
I get that, but
I would say if you.
But if they don't have jurisdiction, then why are you saying that they should have gone to Israel? Because Israel is not a member of the court, and you are not a member of the court. So why should they go to Israel?
We have more than one concern, as we said in the statement. Despite Israel, we made a clear statement. Despite Israel not being a member of the court, they were willing to cooperate. With respect to Hamas, however, I would say it is. You can conclude, looking what happened on October 7th, that Hamas intended to kill civilians. That is
no doubt.
That is without doubt. Absent the jurisdictional questions, it would absolutely be a war crime and a crime against humanity.
I'm just wondering why it's a problem for you guys.
You cannot say the same about the state of Israel.
Well, okay. I'm just wondering why it's a problem for you guys, for the ICC to go after Israeli officials, and doesn't seem to be a problem for them to go after Hamas.
That's not what I said. I made clear already. We don't think they have jurisdiction to go after Hamas.
But so should Hamas be held accountable for what they did?
I answered that question a little while ago. I said yes, they should absolutely be held accountable. The Israeli government should be held accountable on the battlefield, and if not a battlefield, in a court of law.
All right.